Hey everyone. I wanted to talk a little bit today about land management. When you live out like we do out in the forest basically, and you have to consider the possibility of some type of natural disaster happening, whether it be a flood event, a fire event. Um, we've even had small, I wouldn't call it a tornado, but a very huge devastating wind came through and just broke huge branches off a few years ago off of some of our very large trees, things like that. You're kind of on your own to take care of those things. And so anything that you can do ahead of time to try to mitigate damage is a good idea. This is the time of year where we come out into the surrounding area in our property and assess any areas that might need um, branches or fallen trees or anything like that, or even living branches and things on trees that are very low lying, like close to the ground and things like that, that could be potentially used as a ladder fuel for a fire. We try to come and see what we can do, the most that we can do to help prevent that without doing any sort of clear cutting or anything. We never do that. We do a um, mosaic cutting of the area where you just go through and do as much as you can to take out anything dead or down, and then try to keep as much of the natural space as possible. That's what we're going for. We want nature to be the dominant thing here. We don't want any sort of um, special look. It's just whatever nature wants to be, that's what we try to leave it as without having too much of a problem on the forest floor that could just fuel something. We had a dry lightning strike last year during our monsoon season where we just didn't get very much rain at all. And it was pretty close to our house. And thankfully, the wind was blowing in a direction away from any structures, and it burned itself out going up a bank into something where there was just nothing for it to burn. But if it had come in the other direction, it could have done a lot of damage. So we do try to keep on top of that. We come out and look around to see what what's out here, and these are things that we don't take care of every single year. We just can't. We can't keep up with all of it every year because we live out in the forest. But we do as much as we can. And that's what's going to be happening today. We're going to go around and do some cutting of trees that have fallen and landed in other trees, and any amount of wood that we get from that, we do burn. We burn wood for fuel in our fire, in our wood stove for heat in the winter. So it doesn't go to waste. We don't just pile it up somewhere or leave it or anything. It goes into a space where it's safe until we use it. And so it does serve a dual purpose, but we are hoping to create a situation where there's less likelihood of a problem rather than just leaving it and hoping for the best. So here's another example of what I'm talking about. In this area, we came through and cleaned up branches that were just really congested or sticking out at odd angles, and came through, did that with the junipers, and mainly junipers in here that we did that with, just because they grow, just they're very prolific growers, and they don't mind just being like almost like a gigantic bush. So they're good to kind of trim up like that. And whenever we find very straight or somewhat straight branches that are about this size, we hang on to those and use as stays for fencing. They work really well to help keep a long fence line in line. And then in some areas, like over here, pile up the brush and leave it for natural habitat for birds like quail and other birds who like to nest in very dense areas like this. And so we go ahead and leave that, and it does break down over time. So it adds back to the soil and back to the natural order of things. But for the most part, it's kind of like a balancing game where you try not to take too much, but just enough to give yourself a little bit of space. Here's another area that we've spent quite a bit of time clearing dead limbs and things off the ground and trimming back branches. This whole area was so thickly, just so dense that you couldn't even walk through most of this area. It was just uninhabitable for even the chickens. They wouldn't even come over here. So we came in, and it's, as you can see, right next to their poop and run, and they didn't even want to come over here. So we came in and just cleaned it up quite a bit, trimmed all the branches that were head height and lower, got a ton of stuff up off the ground, just dead branches and huge slabs of bark that come off of these cottonwood trees. There's still a few that need to be cleaned up, I see. And anyway, it makes it a very much more inhabitable space for anyone that wants to come through here. We can walk through here. The chickens can come out and scratch and peck and feel comfortable that they're not going to have a predator jump out from under a bush or something. And we're back over at this space where we were trimming things, branches and things a little while ago. It looks so much better. And we also now have quite a bit of firewood. All of this is dead wood that has just been laying there. And we'll take it back over to the wood pile and cut it to length to fit in our wood stove. And there are a bunch of different types of wood here too. We have sycamore, we have oak, black walnut, cedar, tons of different types of wood here that all burn very well. Even the sycamore is a hardwood. I didn't know that for a long time, but it grows so well around here that we decided to try burning some of it, and it just really burns well. So yeah, this is part of what I was talking about when I said in another video that utilizing resources that are given to you by nature is a good idea, and it's a useful source of heat for us. I also cook on that wood stove sometimes, and it's cleaning up the forest floor. So yeah, it just works out really well. Always work to be done around here.